Welcome back to the iWealth podcast. And I have Bryce Brunz with me today. He is with Heritage Land Auction, and we'll talk a lot more about what that means and who you are, Bryce. But let's just start out by talking about yourself. Like, you and I met through a common friend in Mankato, and you're in southern Minnesota. But tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, where do you live? Where did you come from? Like, how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, thanks, Brad, for having me on here. Common friend kind of connected us. I'm originally from Mankato, over by the Mount Cato where the skiing is, and I went to Mankato West. My mother was a teacher. My dad was a general contractor in the dirt construction world, but basketball took me to Iowa and to Missouri for my collegiate days.
Okay.
Always been big into the outdoors. Even through college, we would always go hunting and fishing and stuff like that. And my mom was a farm kid from Kilkenny, Minnesota, which was the Lee Seward County area.
That's right. Very, very close to me.
Yeah, that's right. Very close to you. Yep. And so after that, after my playing days were done, I really wanted to be a basketball coach. Kind of got into that at the lower level at the school I played with, and quickly realized that it just wasn't going to be for me for my own personal reasons. And before coming home, I lived in Australia for a year, came all the way back home and started working for my dad and my uncle in the dirt contracting business, and actually was a teacher as well. So I actually did exactly what my parents did. And as I grew into my own, I guess, self, quickly realized that real estate, I started buying real estate myself with small groups of friends or investors, and love for the outdoors and value of dirt on a lot of summers and a lot of years moving dirt and dealing with counties and rural projects. Realized that, that's what I want to do is land real estate.
Okay. All right. So I'm interested that you said Australia, so it's on my list to get to someday. Like, what was that experience like? Were you working there or school, or what was that?
Yeah. So Perth, Australia was home, I guess, if you want to call it, work visa. So I actually built water heaters at a factory from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay.
And then from 2 p.m., on was just socializing, hanging out, just wanted to have that full experience of just being away on your own. Did a lot of traveling, like, Sydney's on the other side of Australia, but then you can quickly get into like Indonesia, those types of places, New Zealand on the way home, Hawaii. So did a lot of that stuff. And honestly, it's a small world when you start to network, professionally too, but also socially. Like, hey, I want to do something like this. Do you know anyone? We knew some common people in New Zealand that I could just come over and hang out with for a month or two. And so it just kind of worked out.
So let's talk about your business then. So you talked about your background, you talked about the love of outdoors, being with your dad in construction, doing some real estate deals. What does Heritage Land Auction look like? Like, who do you serve when it comes to like your hero target, and how do you help people?
Yeah. So we're a service business. I mean, we really pride ourselves on the serve first mentality, and then being a resource for not only people looking to buy or sell land, because our niche is land, tillable acres, recreational pieces, or the combination of. And for us at Heritage, we're in Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, with some ideas to expand to South Dakota and Wisconsin. But, we're kind of just taking it step by step. Right. Our service is not only it's real estate. So you got the selling side for families and farms and operations or investors of land. And then we have the buying side.
So if somebody wants to sell, if they have whether it's recreational land or whether it's ag land that they're farming, or what about if it's, their home site, that kind of stuff? Like, are those type of assets that you will help people sell on one side of it?
Yeah. So the home site usually is tied with land. That's how we get involved, is the land, right?
Yeah.
And if it makes sense for not because our client is the number one priority. So it's got to make sense for the client and their goal, but also to maximize the value of what they're trying to accomplish. We can take on the project to sell the home with the land if it makes sense, or we can simply survey off. And we have a great network of residential realtors that we work with, where we will refer that over to someone that fits that need as well and let them sell a home site away from the land. We'll just take the land. So it's all situational, it's all client based, and it's all just getting towards the goal and maximizing what the client's trying to achieve really is what it is.
So if you have a landowner that has recreational land or ag land, like farmland, or a house, like how does that work? Do you sell all that stuff? How's that happen?
Yeah. So again, it's all client-based, goal-based. So we got to figure out what we're trying to accomplish. We can take on the house with the land, but we get involved mostly for the land. And if it makes sense to survey off the house, the building site, and, refer that over to our great network of residential agents that actually wear that hat more days than none, we will do that. That's what's best for the client. If it makes sense to keep it all together, we can take on that project just like any other land transaction.
Okay. All right. So that's on the sell side. What about the buy side? How do you represent that side too? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah. A lot of times we're in a dual representation. We have a lot of buyers. We kind of have the idea for buying, but as a buyer representing, we represent investors that like to buy land, lease it back to farmers. We also represent operators who are looking to grow and expand. And so being a buying rep is something that can keep you awfully busy in this line of work as well. So,
Right. All right, Bryce. So when it comes to somebody that wants to purchase land, what does that look like? Do you represent that side of the equation as well?
yeah, we do. So again, goal oriented. What are we trying to accomplish? Let's look at all the details. We want to buy some land, but are you utilizing a exchange to buy the land? Are you simply financing this? Are you paying cash? What's your long-term outlook with this property? Are you looking for a flip property? You want to add value to something, let it appreciate over time, and then move into something else. So a lot of these conversations, either buying or selling, planning and starting the conversation early is my biggest advice for anybody. And because we often rub elbows or work exactly with other professionals, either their financial advisor, their attorney, their banker, survey crews. There's a lot more people involved here. QIs, qualified intermediaries. And so when you're representing a buyer, try to narrow down what we're looking for. And then let's have a plan and let's not sit on our hands. Let's be aggressive, because that's another big thing is that if you have a buying representation, we're going to be out here looking for you, checking those boxes. And once we find it, that property probably will sell. So we don't want to sit on our hands either. So representing a buyer is a lot of fun because you're out there actively really searching and kind of digging up stuff. But again, planning, checking all the boxes for the people is something that we do regularly here.
Yeah. When you think about buying, like I'm where my head went is like on 1031 exchanges. Mm-hmm. So if a farmer, for instance, has 80 acres that he's going to sell, if he doesn't want to pay capital gains on the sale of that land, he needs to identify other land, right? Do you get people in that situation? Do you work with 1031 exchanges, and do you get people that are calling saying, hey, Bryce, can Heritage help us find land so that we can do a swap? Tell me about that piece.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's by default, but it seems like as the agents, we kind of get cornered into this quarterback role, right? And we're totally fine with it, because we often say, hey, okay, you're going to need we got to talk to your tax accountant. We also have to talk to your financial advisor. We also have to, so we kind of quarterback a lot of the communication so things can happen. But yes, if we are land swapping, for example, a farmer wants to add acres. I want to sell this 80 and then buy 120, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, we're going to have a strategy for the 80. We're going to have a strategy for the 120 and try to mesh that together with a 1031 exchange. Often, a lot of the 1031 exchanges come from selling something maybe to a passive investor to lease it back to them, and then they go buy another piece of ground. Now we have gained acres in the total operation.
Okay. All right. And do you do the 1031, or you bring in a company that does the actual paperwork for the 1031, right?
Yeah, we bring in a company. And, we take great pride in our network and our referral sources to help get the job to the finish line. We like to wear our hat because there tends to be enough there for us to worry about, So we like to bring in the other true professionals to cross T's, dot I's. Especially on exchange work, it's name to name, can't touch the money, things like that.
Right. When should somebody think of you? Like when should they say, wave their hand and say, hey, I need some help here. I need to find somebody. When Because I'm assuming you see some people that come too late as well.
Yeah. So the biggest thing, the biggest piece of advice, I always get asked this, is you can never start too early with the planning or the conversations. You can definitely start too late. There's nothing worse than having a rushed farm sale given the circumstances. So per that situation. So starting the planning process, either a buyer, seller, if you're an operator, if you are a farm family that's looking to transition out of it, if you are a new farmer looking to buy land, if you are just like an operator trying to grow, either with investor money help or swapping, if you're a banker, attorney, financial advisor, any one of those professionals that represent clients that may be thinking about it, having that conversation early is the most crucial and beneficial thing, because you start to analyze the situation, the tax situation, the transfer of wealth situation, all of those onion layers, that you just get into the weeds with. Not to mention, if you're a buyer, easements, zoning, long-term outlook, tile, just all these other things that come into play with when you have the appropriate time, you can really feel confident about it. So my biggest advice to either buying or selling, doesn't matter who you are, or just representing a person on the farm side of things as a advisor, is to start the conversations early and say, hey, what's our market outlook even look like? Coming through 2026, right? So
yeah, that's really interesting. So I hadn't thought about this, but let's say that a farmer, a large farmer, is bringing their son in, or they're going to, buy an 80 acres and start their son or daughter in farming. Let's say that they have an 80 identified, but bringing you in, even though they have the 80 identified, as a consultant to help get that purchased, but also do it in the best tax efficient manner, the best way to help that young farmer out. Are those some skill sets that you guys have to help kind of hold their hands and teach them along the way?
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, this example happened last week. Like, the parties are identified. They can make the sale. They don't need me basically to do that. That's all there. They call for basically a consulting or just an opinion on, hey, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish. Who should we talk to? What should we be thinking about? And what's some of the questions we need to bring? More likely the situation is going to be evolving around tax, right? And so we want to make sure that the installment plan, we can still get some income, but we're still kind of deferring, kind of spacing out capital gains. It also makes sense for the young farmer. There could be some tax credit there involved as well as a young farm if you sell to a young farmer. And so there's a lot of layers there, even just on the conversation side. They already have their buyer. They don't need me to help sell it. They may want a price that's fair, but it's kind of one of those conversation topics of like, okay, here's a couple items to think about. Check these off and then call me back, see where we're at. And then check a few more off and then go to this person, go to that person.
That is so interesting. So it's similar to my situation. Like, somebody can go online and find a discount broker and just, put their $100,000 401k into an ETF or some type of an investment, right? But there's so much more that can be wrapped around it, from taxes to rebalancing to asset allocation and those type of things. So just because a farmer or not a farmer, if someone has land picked out, just because they have land picked out doesn't mean that they couldn't use some insight from you on how to set it up and structure it and that kind of thing. That's really interesting. How do you get paid then? How do you get compensated? How do you set that up then?
Yeah, I mean, when you sell or buy land, it's typical commission based, right? Like a house, it's commission based work. I mean, there can be flat fees and stuff, but it's all agreed upon. When someone's calling for advice, to be honest with you, there is no charge. I mean, I personally evaluate probably 5,000 acres a year for people that are just wanting the knowledge of the market, and they want that bi-yearly valuation to track appreciation. They're going to ask for advice maybe on how to make the land better. We do farm manage if that is a situation that comes up, like with, often I use the word, snowbirds that just say, hey, take care of this. We want to keep it though until we maybe get to the next phase of life. So we just, our services can be offered as we figure out the goal, but when it comes to just talking, we are a resource for people. And that's what we really pride ourselves on, is that we're not charging for a phone call. We're saying, hey, let us try to help you the best we can. Kind of, put good out into the universe. The universe will give it back to you type of thing.
Reciprocity, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What about the management? So I mean, I have clients like that that go away for the winter, and maybe it's their son or something like that. But what kind of things do you do? Like, will you do the lease agreements? Do you actually come on site? Like, what does management mean?
Sure. Yeah. So what that actually looks like, is again, client-based, goal-based. Is your goal the highest rent? We're putting this thing out for bids, or are you more of hey, I want it to be a local guy. We've always rented to this person. Let's just keep that going, but let's work on maybe some improvements. Can we restructure some of the rent? So yeah, we do deal with the leases. We do deal with the renters. We also deal with a lot of the history and data collecting, like fertility, soil sampling. Not to say that we're doing it, but we want to know what our base asset is before we actually manage it, and then how can we make it better, right?
Yeah.
Either by drainage, by clearing fence lines, terraces, adding terraces if necessary, and just managing the land. And then, of course, when we collect rent, we need to document all this and get it to their tax accountant and then essentially give them the net proceeds.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of layers to that as well, but it's all based around, hey, what are we actually trying to accomplish? Do you even need me to manage this ground? If you just really want a decent rent to the operator that you've rented for 20 years, you probably don't need me. But if we're talking 5, 6, 7 acres with a plan behind it, or 700 acres with a plan behind it, maybe we start to look at more of a management situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Recent situation just came up where a client of mine has a home in the country. 80 acres came for sale around it. So they're buying the 80 acres. They don't really need the 80 acres. They just wanted to kind of protect their site. Maybe they want 5 or 10, but they don't know if they should split it off, not split it. They don't know. I mean, they have a renter already, so that renter can stay for another year, but then what's long term? Is that like a really good situation, Bryce, where they just can say, here's our land, here's where it is. Can we talk about some options for this? And then if they're going to sell 40 and keep 40, you'd get involved then. Like, am I thinking about this correctly on like who your hero target might be?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. I mean, when you answer the direct question of hero target, right? I mean, landowners, right? Farmers, people who have inherited land that don't farm, buyers as far as operators, and investors. And then I also put in the hero target financial advisors, estate attorneys, bankers. They're all people that just by conversing with, we can help achieve a goal, right? So if somebody's wondering, hey, I own this land or I inherited this land, one, what's it worth? Maybe they don't even know. Maybe they do know. What are my options with it? Then I'm probably going to ask them, have you thought about, this is what it's worth. This is the options. Have you thought about what you want to accomplish? Your asset. And with that being said, if you have something in mind or have no clue, just by talking about the options with the land, you're going to start to filter in, okay, here's something I kind of like, gravitating towards that rather than maybe this selling half of it or whatever, right? So I often tell people it's like a Plinko board that's a triangle facing down, and we drop the Plinko in and we hit all these professionals, all these options as we converse and lay it out, and then it trickles down and now we have our plan.
Sure.
But it starts so broad that it's almost overwhelming for people to even start talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and then, we should talk about family meetings. Do you ever get that? Do you ever get on the kitchen table and have the family meeting about, hey, we're thinking about selling some of this or doing something with it? Because those are always interesting too. I've been in those.
Very interesting. A lot of personalities, dynamics of family change from family to family. So again, is a family member operating, right? And some of them aren't, and they want to cash out. So yeah, we get involved. Of course, invited, right? But we also like to invite the financial advisors, if they're invited as well. Like the more people we can have sit down and have a meeting, that's great. We go into family farms, sit at the kitchen table and just talk it out. We do them on Zoom. It's Central Time. We'll be doing, I can give an example of this last one that I did. We had a Zoom at 8:00 at night on Wednesdays because everyone was in a different part of life. Some were still working, some were retired, some are East Coast, West Coast, Texas, you name it. So we came to the conclusion that 8:00 on Wednesdays would be the time to kind of plan, confirm, talk through. And again, it's a process. I think it's good for us too, because when you get in person, you start to gather a little bit more of a personality wise with people. Over the phone, we're not seeing each other. We're just verbally communicating. Sometimes it can be taken out of context. Hand gestures and emotional facial expressions, like you start to understand the person a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that sister A is not very emotional, but sister B is very emotional, et cetera, down the line for brothers and whoever's involved. So we really try to go for those in-persons, and we will travel for them because they seem to be more beneficial from that standpoint.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, is there a website that they go to? Do you have an email address? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah. So our website, heritagelandauction.com, it's got our listings. It's got our services. It's got our upcoming auctions. My email is Bryce, BRYCE, at heritagelandauction.com. My phone number, direct sell business, is 507-382-6669. And also, all those services and all those connections, even if you're looking for, we'll call it an appraiser, or if you're looking for a QI or a 1031, or maybe a financial advisor, right? If you're looking for something, we're open to just being that resource.
Okay, that's awesome. So you have somebody local, but you're also regional when it comes to land. So I guess my takeaway from our conversation today is if somebody's interested in either selling or buying, or has land that they're looking at doing something differently with, just call you for a consultant, like to have a conversation about what's some possibilities that are out there. You can either connect them to the right people or help them, like sit down and have the family meeting, or help them, separate a piece and sell, or 1031. Like, there's just so much involved. And to your point, I don't think people understand where they should go or what they should do. They've got a friend that says this or a relative that sends this. Being able to have somebody that's a consultant, I think, is really, really cool. So that's neat.
Yeah, we thoroughly enjoy it. We love being a resource. So yeah, we're open to helping anyone.
All right. Sounds good, Bryce. Thank you so much for being here today, and have a great day.